from our top secret Fusion fan headquarters in Philadelphia. I'm your host, Mike Kafka, ready to get you all caught up on the very first game that the Philadelphia Fusion have played against the Houston Outlaws. Now, of course, as we know, it's the post-game show, so we do know that the Philadelphia Fusion won 3-2, beating the highly anticipated matchup against the Houston Outlaws. And of course, the Houston Outlaws went toe-to-toe against the Seoul Dynasty in the preseason. We know what the Seoul Dynasty is capable of, and the fact that the Houston Outlaws could go toe-to-toe with the Seoul Dynasty means that the Houston Outlaws could do some pretty big damage to teams, but the Philadelphia Fusion, they came in to the matchup, and they absolutely dominated. Oh boy, we got a show for you here, and let's just get right into it, ladies and gentlemen. Yes. So they ended up playing 5 maps, which I love. I want the most amount of Overwatch that I can get. That's what I love the most. I want 5 maps every single time that these teams play. I want 5 matches, because that means the only thing that it can mean is that I get more quality Overwatch. Let's start off with our post-game show with what I saw in the team lineups. We finally saw what the team lineups were going to be after many days and many months of speculation. Was Joe Meister, was he going to play the Mercy? He played Mercy on Team Canada in the World Cup. People said he was a little shaky. I don't think I agree with him all too much on that assertion, but they're certainly free to make that claim. We saw in the main 6 lineup, it was Carpy, Shadowburn, Fraggy, Poco, Neptuno, and Boombox. Neptuno on the Mercy, Boombox playing that Zenyatta. Poco, I thought Hotbo was going to be playing the tank. Poco comes in, he's playing the Diva. It's fabulous stuff. In fact, we're going to be talking a little bit later on about that. Fraggy playing the Winston, of course, Shadowburn, and Carpy filling out with that Genji Tracer combo, respectively. And it was many months of speculation. In fact, my own team lineup was, of course, Carpy, Shadowburn, Fraggy, Hotba, Joe Meister, and Boombox. Of course, many people may think, and they may look at my past predictions. I have stated, and I still do believe, that Boombox is a top-tier elite Zenyatta support. Now, we'll be talking a little bit later in about how the support duos, how they really make this team, and how they really help this elite. And I'm going to say it many times when talking about this DPS core. Elite DPS core of Carpy and Shadowburn. And that's not even to mention Snillo, who's just waiting in the wings, waiting to turn 18 in, I think, March or something like that. Anyway, let's get into it. Let's talk about it. How did the boys do? All right. Overall, Shadowburn had 71 eliminations, 40 deaths. Carpy with 67 eliminations, 34 deaths on the match time. Fraggy, we'll talk about this a little later on, but Fraggy concerned me at times. It did see in a lot of places, he was very aggressive, wanted to play very aggressively, which he was prone to do, and it definitely showed. 24 eliminations, 46 deaths. Now, to note, those 46 deaths were the most deaths in the match, which is big to point out. You don't really want your Winston, your tank, to die that many times, but that's okay, because the Philadelphia Fusion, they pulled it out, and that's why I love them. F yeah. All right. Poco, outstanding. Absolutely outstanding on his Diva, and if there's one thing you can definitely say about his Diva, in 5 maps, he was incredibly aggressive. Incredibly aggressive, constantly diving after the Mercy, constantly diving after the support. And one of the things that possibly impressed me the most were not his Diva bombs that were going off, that were getting, 2-3 kills every time you'd see it in the kill feed. That's not what impressed me the most. But what impressed me the most was his ability to go out in find the low HP targets and get rid of them. And that's very important when trying to take down a team. Is that if you're able to take down those low HP guys, you're gonna win team fights every time. That's just common sense at this point, I would think. Who else do we got here? In our support rounds, we have Boombox with 20 eliminations, 34 deaths, and Neptuno with 8 eliminations, 35 deaths. And of course, he was on the Mercy, so those deaths elimination ratio, they're going to be a little skewed, and that's okay, because Neptuno, he played out of his mind as Mercy, which I love. I love good Mercy play, which, you know, not hard to find these days. But that's a controversial opinion that we'll have a little later on. Where are we here? Let's talk a little bit more about the players themselves and what they play. Now let's talk about Poco. He was playing D.Va all throughout the match. 55 minutes on D.Va. That's absolutely astounding. And if I can find my information here, he played 55 minutes, 47 seconds of D.Va out of an entire match time of 57 minutes, 32 seconds. That's amazing. The guy was absolutely outrageous on D.Va. He was amazing. I love it. I can't get enough. You want to talk about team fight wins? All right, 50% of the time that Poco engaged on the team fight, they were gonna win, which is something you want to hear most definitely, because when you're getting in there and you're engaging, if you have a 50-50 shot of winning, well, that's 1 out of 2. You'll take that every time of the week. Here's a number I want you guys to know. 12%. That's right. Poco, he was 12% out of 33 fights the entire game. 33 fights. 12 of them, the first kill belonged to Poco. That's amazing. The only person ahead of him was Carpe with Tracer at 17%. And that's Carpe's job, is to get those first picks on Tracer, and Poco was doing it at 12%, getting those first picks. That's outstanding. And you know, you're gonna be, it's just the first game, but if that tank core of Fraggy and Poco keep getting better and better, synergizing well together, you're going to see some amazing duos come out of them and some amazing play. Once they become comfortable with each other, possibly you see a little more Reinhardt play, because there is no one more aggressive and better on Reinhardt than I believe right now than Fraggy. He can play an amazing Reinhardt. That's what I love the most about him. We're talking about first kills, and of course, we got to talk about Carpe's day. Carp? I don't know. Anyway, 17% of team fights he got the first pick on, but you do have to talk about the first death when Houston Outlaws were getting fights, 32 team fights they were in. Carpe was being picked off 21%. We did the numbers here, and that rounded off. What was that? In 33 team fights, Carpe was outstanding with 6 team fights that were led with Carpe killing someone. So what I love the most about Carpe is that his ability to get behind enemy lines, and the big one I can think about right now is Lijiang Market. When they won, what was it, 100 to 81? When that came in, Carpe at the end was behind enemy lines. He found the Mercy, he found the Zenyatta, he got him, he picked them off both, and that allowed the Philadelphia Fusion to win their first game, 3 games to 2, all on the back of Carpe's amazing ability to get behind enemy lines and get picks, and that's what we love. He played a fabulous Tracer amount, 46 minutes. Again, we talked about, they played 57 minutes all together. Carpe was on Tracer for 46 of them. Fraggy was on Winston for 46 minutes. Neptuno was on Mercy for 46 minutes. And Shadowburn was on Genji for 40 minutes. So you definitely saw what their comp is going to be and what it's going to be in the future. And that brings up an excellent point about Carpe. I want to go back to that for just a second here. With this 21% of being picked off first in team fights, the only thing that showed to me was that Carpe was an immediate threat to the Houston Outlaws. Now, when we say that, it means that they had to have focused on him because the only person that came close was Boombox in 46 minutes of play. He was picked off 11% of those 32 team fights that the Houston Outlaw engaged in. So that means that shows you that they considered Boombox the big threat, because once you have Discord Ords on your teammates, that becomes incredibly hard to stay alive with a 30% damage boost. That's just absolutely deadly. We also saw Fraggy on the Reinhardt for 9 minutes, Boombox on the Mercy for 9 minutes. That was absolutely amazing to see. And of course, we saw Fraggy on that Reinhardt to start off Lijiang Tower Command Center. And of course, I do have a little note here. A little bit later on, we'll talk about how great he was on it. Let's talk about the entirety of the squad, the pick rates. If we had a fun little sound effect, this is where we'd put it in. But we're low budget here at the post-game show. Mercy was played an astounding 96% of the time by both teams. D.Va came in second with 95%, and then it drops off with Winston at 83%. Played at a rounding 1 hour 36 minutes for both teams. D.Va played 149 for both teams. Here are the players, here are the hero characters, that didn't get played at all. It was Anna, Bastion, Hanzo, Mei, Reaper, Torbjorn, and of course the most useless character in my opinion, Fight Me Blizzard, Symmetra in all of pro play. And of course, one of the big things that's on the ladder right now is the 2-2-2 comp, and you couldn't have found it more prevalent than in this Fusion Outlaw matchup. They had it 95.5% of the time they were in that 2 attack, 2 tank, and 2 support combo. If I could find my notes here, of course, here we are. Fusion did play in that triple tank meta. That's 3 tanks, 1 DPS character, and 2 supports 5.36% of the time. Of course, that was during the Lijiang Tower Command Center go together there. Let's talk about the Fusion pick rates, but not the Outlaw pick rates, because F them. This is the Fusion post-game show. Come on, go Fusion! Your Mercy was picked 98% of the game, 57 minutes played. Mercy was played 56 minutes, 45 seconds. D.Va came in second at 55 minutes, 47 seconds. Zenyatta third at 50 minutes, 5 seconds. And Tracer at 49 minutes, 3 seconds. That means D.Va was played a whopping 96%, Zenyatta was played a whopping 87%, and Tracer was played an outstanding 85%. And like I said, they did rely heavily on that 2-2-2 comp, playing at 93% of the game, and it definitely showed how much that 2-2-2 comp is needed in the Overwatch division. Now let's talk about our map 1. Here's a little transition. That would be cool if we had the budget for it. Let's talk about map 1. And map 1, as a Philadelphia Fusion fan, it was one of the most exciting maps to watch, because there came a point where you realize that Shadowburn had a 15 kill streak, that Carpy had a 15 kill streak. In fact, I believe one of the announcers said at one point Carpy had a 15-1 streak going on. No, Shadowburn had a 15-1 streak going on, and Carpy had an 18-1 kill streak going on. It was just absolutely outstanding to see those players. Let's talk a little bit about it. Overall, in the game, in the first map, Carpy had an outstanding 32 kills to 11 deaths. Shadowburn came in second at 19-9. Fraggy, we should talk about Fraggy just a little bit here. And of course, one of the, I don't want to say frustrating things. I mean, it might be frustrating to the team, because when you lose your tank, all of a sudden, that big pool of HP that comes from your tank, it's suddenly gone. It's absolutely gone. And Winston, you really want your Winston on point. That's right. He had 14 deaths and only 4 kills. So maybe that's something that the Philadelphia Fusion might be working on to try and keep him alive as the season progresses. That's just something that we're going to have to watch and find out. Boombox had 7 ults. 7 ults. Only Carpe had 7 ults, as well as a Zenyatta main. Not as a Zenyatta main, but as a Zenyatta player. That's absolutely... I could never imagine doing that whatsoever. 7 ults. Those 7 Zenyatta ults definitely are going to help keep your team alive. Who else did we have here? Poco with 16 kills, 7 deaths, and of course, that big 3 eliminations at the end that took out, I want to, don't quote me on this, I want to believe that they took out their 2 supports and a DPS that absolutely nailed at their first 3-point victory, and that was outstanding. Shadowburn had 5 Genji Blades. Let's talk a little bit about Jake here. You know, Jake, they definitely focused him. He had the most deaths on that first map at 16 deaths, so the Philadelphia Fusion were definitely looking around for Jake, and that helped the Philadelphia Fusion take the first point. 3-2 with 11 fights to Houston's 8 fights. 71 kills for Philadelphia, 64 kills for the Houston Outlaws. Let's talk a little bit now about Map 2. Let's get my notes all in order. So if we're talking Map 2, here on the Fusion post-game show, we got to talk about Carpe. He has 5 ults, 5 pulse bombs, but they weren't enough. If you look at the information here, Carpe had 7 kills. He had 10 kills, 7 deaths, and those 10 kills led the team during Map 2. Shadowburn came in second with 8 kills, 11 deaths. And of course, something that you really want to keep an eye out here was Fraggy yet again, 11 deaths, tied for most on the team in that map with Shadowburn at 11. A couple of highlights here. 4 ults for Neptuno. You never know when that Valkyrie is going to be needed. Spoiler alert, it's needed all the time. 2 automatic reses makes it an 8-on-6 every single time. You're going to take that. What else can we talk about on Map 2? Well, we could talk about how the Houston Outlaws themselves, they weren't as good as Linkser and Jake were their 2 best players. Linkser got 16 kills and died 8 times. Jake had 14 kills and died 7 times. Raucus at 7-4. Coolmat 8-5. Muma at 8-3. And Bonnie had 2 deaths. Of course, he was playing the Mercy, so you really can't blame him for only no eliminations. Come on, man, step it up. Come on. I really want to see that. But, in terms of play, the Houston Outlaws just simply outplayed the Philadelphia Fusion on a 2 control point map, and that was Horizon Lunar Colony. And of course, starting out, we did see Fraggy on the Orisa, and so with a little more practice, I'm sure they're going to square everything out, have their fine-tuned elements for that first point on Horizon Lunar Colony. And we're going to see much more in the future. Of course, it's just the first game, so they have plenty of time to iron out the kinks in the future. Enough about that. Let's talk about Map 3. That was Oasis, and if you haven't been on Reddit, you haven't been on YouTube, and you haven't been on Twitter, then you haven't seen the just shit ton amount of highlights that came from this map. I'm talking Carpe went off. I'm talking Shadowburn went off. I'm talking Poco went off. Shadowburn on Pharaoh was an absolute delight to watch. He kept Jake in his place the entire game. And one of the things I loved most about Shadowburn was his ability to get into the head of Jake as Pharah. Because with Shadowburn able to pinpoint and flick to where Jake was going to be, you know that had to have gotten into the head of Jake and created some self-doubt within him. And Shadowburn, 13 kills, 1 death. That's outstanding. That's absolutely outstanding. And here we go. We have the numbers. We have the information here for the map. 2-0. They won on Oasis. Didn't even give the Houston Outlaws a chance to breathe. Just won it 2-0. And Jeff Kaplan, if you're watching this, perchance, bring back 3-round attack capture points, please. That's something I love. Assault mode. Just 2 rounds just doesn't cut it for anybody anymore. If I want 3-round Oasis back. All right, I need it. It's not there. And one of the biggest highlight that stands out to me is this little stat here. Kills in the kill list here, 36-6. That's right. The Philadelphia Fusion on map 3, Oasis, had 36 kills to Outlaws 6 kills. And let's talk about the people who had the 6 kills. Jake had 2 kills on 7 deaths. Clockwork had 2 kills on 6 deaths. And Moonma had 1 kill on 5 deaths. I mean, what do you really need to say? The Houston Outlaws did not play well at all on Oasis. And that allowed the Philadelphia Fusion, who just played so much more better, to take over that map. Let's go over to map number 4 now. Map number 4 was Eichenwald. And what a map it was for the Philadelphia Fusion. And if you're a big fan of the Fusion like I am, you definitely thought they were going to pull it out, that they were going to win that map and take it 3-1. Unfortunately, the Houston Outlaws were just that much better, and they took it 3-3 with 33% more progression for the Houston Outlaws, and that's what sealed it up for them to win map 4 and kick it over to map 5, Lijiang Tower. A couple of map thoughts here. Poco did outstanding. 20 kills, 10 deaths. Boombox was amazing with 6 ultimates. Shadowburn, 19 and 13, had 5 ultimates as well. Neptuno had 4 ultimates. Carpe was 14 and 9. A little bit of a rough showing from him on that map, but he bounced back and did amazing with 8 ultimates. And Fraggy had 15 deaths and 4 ultimates as well were given there. And let's Eichenwald, they lost. It was bad. Next time, they really have to break out a ground and pound defense. They have the teammates. They absolutely have the teammates for a ground and pound defense. Now they just have to figure out how they want to use it, because if there's anybody I want on defense on Eichenwald, it's Fraggy on Reinhardt. If there's anyone who's playing anything, it's Reinhardt on Eichenwald, and it's Fraggy. Get Fraggy on Reinhardt on Eichenwald. That's the only thing I'm going to say on that matter, all right? I believe if Fraggy played more Reinhardt and Eichenwald, they easily would have won it. But let's get over to map 5, and it was the most exciting map of the night. That's right. The Philadelphia Fusion took it 2-0, beating the Houston Outlaws 2-0 and winning the first game 3 maps to 2. Let's talk a little bit about it. Boombox had an uninspiring showing, I thought, on that 5th map. 4 kills to 5 deaths. We're going to be talking a little bit later on about how I feel about individual performances. And in fact, over here, I do have each of the individual performances and the characters that they played on. So let's talk first about map 5 and what I liked about it. First off, we have to, and why I talked about on map 4, why I talked about Fraggy has to play more Rhine. And I understand it's not meta. It's not meta right now to play Rhine, but that doesn't matter when you have such an amazing Reinhardt like Fraggy. Fraggy makes it work every time. It's just like Genji. It's just like Tracer. Those guys have, excuse me. Those guys have kind of fallen out of the meta, but with guys like Carpe, with guys like Shadowburn, excuse me, on those Tracer and Genji characters, they make them work for the Philadelphia Fusion, and I believe it's time for Kirby to show a little bit of faith, get Fraggy onto that Reinhardt, because if you get Fraggy onto the Reinhardt, there is no other better Reinhardt in the world, and you can quote me on that, no other better Reinhardt in the world than Fraggy of the Philadelphia Fusion. But let's talk about Fraggy in that Lijiang Tower map. He had his Rhine ult in the first 24 seconds of the match. That's absolutely insane. In fact, by the time that Moonma had his first Rhine ult, Fraggy already had his second. That's absolutely outstanding. That just shows the kind of aggressive play that Fraggy is going to bring. And when you have a Reinhardt that 24 seconds into the match already has an ult, that's going to change the complete complexity of the game and of the match. Now, a couple of thoughts here on map 5. One of the biggest things was Outlaw not running that Mercy comp, and the Philadelphia Fusion did run the Mercy comp, which I thought it immediately, and I don't, one of the things I hate to admit, because I wish there was a way that you can plan around a Mercy. I wish there was a way you can plan around her resurrect ability, but it just doesn't happen unless you create a composition that's purely get the Mercy, get the Mercy, get the Mercy, get the Mercy first, and then everything else later. Mercy is just an absolute must pick in her status right now. She has to be #1 pick, and when you're playing as the pros, you have to realize that. Moira can be great. I love playing Moira. Zenyatta can be great. I long for the days of just seeing Ana Lucio spam, but when you're coming down, it's the final map. It's 2-2. You're tied. You need, and I don't care. You need Mercy's ability to make it a 8-on-6 map at any time. The 7-on-6 with her resurrect ability and that 30-second cooldown, you'll take that every day of the week to bring it to 7v6. So when the Houston Outlaws did not bring out that Mercy, it just allowed Fraggy to immediately become aggressive once they figured it out that the Houston Outlaws were not going to be running the Mercy. That allowed Fraggy to become ultra aggressive, and it showed, getting his ultimate in 24 seconds. Still talking about this map number 5, Fraggy had 4 ults in 5 team fights. What? I know he primarily played Reinhardt on that on Market, or no, Tower, I believe it was. No, it was Command Center, right? It was Command Center, yes. He mostly played Reinhardt on Command Center, and that definitely showed that he was there. He was ready to play, and it showed. Boombox, I looking through my notes here and bashing him earlier, I feel bad. I now really feel bad because he had 5 ults in 5 team fights. What? If your teams are engaging and your Zenyatta has a Transcendence to negate all the DPS, I mean, as an opposing team, what can you do? The only thing you can do is break out the Junkrat, which Zenyatta cannot heal all that burst damage. He cannot. So you have to break out the Junkrat, which Jake did for the Houston Outlaws. You did see that, but it was just too little too late. And that really propelled the Philadelphia Fusion to take the final map 5 against the Houston Outlaw. Here we go. It's my final thoughts on the game. Boy, oh boy. I do have a lot. But first, before I actually get into the final thoughts, let's get into it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the player stats. Ooh, boy, oh boy. Let's get right into it. Well, the main man I had been talking about the entire match, and even though when you look back on it, when you just look purely at the stats, and Fraggy, if you're watching this, which I doubt you are, when I'm purely looking at the stats, it tells one picture. And it tells an incredibly bleak picture of a tank that's constantly getting picked off. But when you actually go back and you watch the game, you watch tape, you watch the film of Fraggy, you watch what he's doing, he's an incredibly valuable asset to the team. And like I said, if he plays, I believe he's a world-class Ryan, and I know Ryan isn't in the meta right now, But with a caliber, with a world-class top 1, 2, or 3, he's interchangeable. Definitely interchangeable between 1 and 2. When you have that kind of Reinhardt, it's a shame to let it go to waste. Let's talk about Fraggy here. Let's see if I have as Winston, he had 17 kills, 37 deaths. As Reinhardt, he had 5 kills, 8 deaths, and 3 ults. I mean, that's just it's concerning as Winston, as you see, 17, 37. But you also have to remember, and this is the one thing that's keeping me sane right now, Fusion fans, you have to remember, all right, as Winston, you're not dealing a lot of DPS. You're not dealing around a lot of damage. Those Tesla cannons, they don't deal a lot of damage. The shock, it doesn't deal a lot, so you're not getting a lot of picks, but you're also an incredibly huge target, so you're getting picked off a lot. Also, with our other tank, the standout, I believe, of the day, it was Poco. Let's get his information right here, right now. Wow. I mean, there was, if you're a big tank fan, if you love watching tank play, like me, I was a big fan of the triple tank meta, which when Fusion brought it out at Lijiang Tower, I went hog wild. Because coming out for the Philadelphia Fusion, there wasn't a bigger question mark than, okay, who was going to be the other tank? Was it going to be Hotba? Was it going to be, excuse me, was it going to be Hotba? Was it going to be Sato? Of course, we'll talk about Sato a little bit later in on the program. Was it going to be Poco? Who was it going to be? And it ends up being Poco indeed. And boy, oh boy, did it pay off for the Fusion on Diva. He had 56 kills, 26 deaths. That's amazing. And he only played Zarya for just a little bit. In fact, he played Zarya for just under 1 minute and had 3 deaths. So that just shows you what you can do. On our support staff here, and as we go along, as we get you more information, and as I myself, as I get more stats from the game, we're going to give you more highlighted, detailed analysis from the game. But right now, all of my data is coming from Winston's lab. I'd like to thank Winston's lab right now for being the place I am getting all of my data from. There couldn't have been a better site to use than Winston's lab. No, this video isn't sponsored by them. Not yet, at least. Let's talk about our support squad here, because there's nothing more important than keeping you alive while the DPS thrives. Let's talk Boombox. And as Zenyatta, he had 19 kills, 30 deaths, played a lot of heroes. He played Moira, he played Mercy, he played Zarya, he even played a little bit of Soldier 76. But of course, what he's most known for is being a world-class Zenyatta, and that's just what he did. But I think one of the biggest numbers here we have to take account for is 19 ultimates. And that's one thing I think you should definitely look for going forward into the future. Watching the Philadelphia Fusion is just how many times Boombox gets his ults. Now, I'm going to let him pass on all these deaths and lack of eliminations because I don't even know the stats on Shaz for the Los Angeles Gladiators, but that boy popped off, and it really made it seem like Zenyatta was a DPS character. But maybe, look, going forward, that's not going to be Boombox's role. That's going to be to farm for Transcendence, and that's to get ult as quickly as he can, because 19 kills, that's the same amount as his ultimates. It's absolutely amazing. 19 ultimates, 19 Transcendence, all throughout 5 maps. That's instrumental in keeping your teammates alive. And now as we look over towards Neptuno, he played Mercy most of the game. He had 14 Mercy ults. Also played a little bit of Lucio, had 3 Lucio ults, had 1 Zenyatta ult. Of course, that was really fun to watch Neptuno play the Zen and Boombox play the Mercy. Of course, they did switch back as quickly as they could. But he played an absolutely outstanding Mercy, getting 3 kills, and we know what that 3 kills was from. It was from that Battle Mercy on Li Jiang Tower. I believe it was Market. And the support class of the Philadelphia Fusion looking great, looking, dare I say it, elite. We're going to see if that stays true as the season progresses. Now let's get over to our DPS core. Genji and Pharah was the main 2 things that Shadowburn was playing. 47 kills against 32 deaths on Genji with 13 ults. And of course, one of the things that impressed me the most was just the mental side of the game for Shadowburn. You would see him pop up into the sky, and any reasonable lad would think that, yeah, of course he's gonna go up. He's popping up to go use his blade, but that's not the case. He does it to get into your head, to make sure that the supports, they transcend, or the Mercy, they Valkyrie, or the Lucio, they sound barrier, because once you do that, that's just one less support ult you have to deal with, and when that support ultimate is done and dying, then that's when you pop your blade. 13 ults again, 2 ultimates for Pharah, and of course we know the world-class job he did on Oasis as Pharah. But let's talk about Carpe a little bit here. 57 kills on Tracer, 29 deaths on Tracer as well. But he had a whopping 26 pulse bombs for Tracer. He had 7 McCree kills, 1 death as McCree, 2 ultimate, 2 Deadeyes, and he played Widowmaker. He had 3 kills on Widowmaker, and of course that came on Dorado against Jake. Those 3 kills were all against Jake. And let's go over, those are your player stats, and of course, like I said, those player stats are only going to become more detailed as the season progresses and as I gain more information and statistics from Winston's lab and from the Overwatch League themselves. Let's talk about my final thoughts and, of course, coming up, my predictions for Saturday's Spitfire Fusion matchup at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. I got it, 11 o'clock Western Pacific Standard Time. Got to do a little mathematics there to figure out when that plays. I don't think this needs to be said. Poco was the game MVP. And one of the reasons I'm saying that big time is because if we go back, we take a look at what he did. 56 Diva kills, 26 deaths. He was absolutely instrumental in capturing. When Fusion immediately, right out of the gate, they were attack on Dorado. He was instrumental on capturing that 3rd tick on Dorado to finish off that first time on attack. When he picked off the DPS, when he picked off the Mercy and Zen, he was absolutely instrumental, and that just laid the groundwork for the entirety of the game. You got to give the game MVP to Poco on that one, because Tank was such a big question mark. We didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know what they were up, who they were going to fight, how they were going to fight, and for Poco to come out that strong, that quickly, just shows that the Fusion Tank Squad only has up to go from here. Carpe and Shadowburn are legit. They're and I don't care how much bias I have coming from me right now. Shadowburn and Carpe are the #1 DPS core in the Overwatch League. All right? I want to know in the comments down below, who do you think is the best DPS duo? Is it Shadowburn and Carpe? Let me know. All right? Who else do we have? One of the things that I think that the casters themselves and myself were really looking forward to is a Mercy nerf. And of course, I talk about that because it's just not, personally, it's just not fun to watch Mercy. Everything revolves around Mercy, killing Mercy, yada, yada, yada. But one of the things that the Fusion do have in spades are 2 incredibly great Lucio players in Joe Meister and Neptuno. And when the Mercy nerf does come, the Philadelphia Fusion have a hard question to ask themselves: who's going to play Lucio? Who's going to play Anna? Who's going to play Zen? Who's going to play Mercy? Who's going to play Moira? Because once we see that Mercy nerf, I expect Moira, Anna, and Lucio playage to go up. And in fact, if we look back at it one more time, if I have the statistics, do I have the statistics? I do. For the Philadelphia Fusion, Mercy. And I have to say this. Excuse me. I have to say this. Mercy was played 98% of the game. 98%. There's no reason one player should be played that much. 98% of the Philadelphia Fusion, they played Mercy, and that's just way too much. That's way too much. There needs to be more parity between the heroes because Mercy play is just so dull as a spectator, and it cannot be very rewarding for the players that play him. Trust me, I play Mercy. I know what's up. All right, my final thought, and this is a big one. Boombox did well enough. I mean, we talked about the ultimates. We talked about the percentage of play. Zenyatta was played for 50 minutes, 5 seconds altogether. That's 87% of the time. And if I could find my stats off the pile here, Boombox had an outstanding 19 ultimates as Zenyatta. That's as many kills as he had, as many eliminations as he had. That's just outstanding. That's amazing. That's elite level Zenyatta play, and I expect us to only see more great play from him as Zenyatta as he gets more comfortable with his role and within the team. That's what we're going to be seeing. So that does it for my final thoughts. The Philadelphia Fusion looked really great on payload maps like Dorado. They looked really great on Oasis, on assault maps like that. They didn't look so great on Junkertown, which is fine. That they're gonna do a lot better going forward. Or I mean, Eichenwald. They didn't look so good on Eichenwald. My notes were wrong here. They didn't look so great on Eichenwald, but Lijiang Tower breaking out the Reinhardt. I expect with Fraggy playing as well as he did on the Reinhardt, you gotta wonder, does Coach Kirby, does he go to Fraggy and does he say, okay, enough with the Winston. We want you to play Reinhardt, and we're gonna get a team around you that can play to Reinhardt strengths. And now on to the predictions. Well, finally, for the big London Spitfire Philadelphia Fusion game that's happening Saturday at 2 p.m. here Eastern Standard Time, or 11 a.m. Western Time, that's Pacific Standard Time. I have the Fusion taking the game 3-2. Of course, I don't see a lot out of the Spitfire. Those Korean teams, yes, they're good, but you take a look at the Boston Uprising, you take a look at the New York Excelsior, two Korean teams, 3 Korean teams, in fact, I mentioned there, I think are incredibly beatable, and I expect Fusion to be a top 4 team within a couple of weeks. So thank you very much, Mike Kafka, here with your post-game, and boy, oh boy, it's been a long one. We'll see you right after the Spitfire game. Bye for now.